Good evening. I call to order the Lake Havasu City Council meeting on Tuesday, November 26, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. We'll now have an invocation from Chaplain B. Evans with KNLB Christian Radio, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Lake Havasu Police Department Honor Guard.
Am I a blessed person? Look at this house full of thankful people. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much. We just don't know where to begin. We living in Lake Havasu City are a blessed people. Lord, there's nowhere in the world that has sunrises and sunsets the way you show us. Today it was a little dreary, a little gray, and yet the sunset was awesome. We just are so thankful, Father. We're thankful for so many things, but we're thankful for the amenities that we have in this city. And of course, the city council is a great percentage of what brings those here to us. So we just thank you, Jesus. We're so grateful. We give you all the praise and the glory in that mighty and powerful name of yours, Jesus. Amen.
Stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And a big thank you to the Lake Havasu Police Department Color Guard for joining us this evening for a special occasion. We're going to be doing the saying goodbye to one of our colleagues and welcoming a new colleague and swearing in two folks that won in re-election. But before we do that, we'll go to item 4. Ms. Williams, if you please call the roll.
Council members Nancy Campbell. Here. Michelle Lynn.
Here.
Jenny Koch.
Here.
Jim Dolan.
Here.
David Lane.
For the final time, I'm here.
Vice Mayor Cameron Moses.
Here.
Mayor Kalshihi.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now have item 5 as a presentation to outgoing council member. So Councilmember Lane, if you would like to join me in front. All right, we'd like to say thank you to Councilmember David Lane. He has served 2 terms with the Lake Havasu City Council. He has been a great man of honor and leadership, and it's been a pleasure serving with you on the City Council. Thank you for all that you have done through the 8 years here in Lake Havasu City. I know that this plaque with a few words is going to be minuscule to what you have done for Lake Havasu City, but we'd like to award this plaque to you, presented to David Lane in appreciation for your dedicated service to the citizens of Lake Havasu City as a council member from 2016 to 2024. And if my colleagues could please join me, we'll take one group photo with the council as well. Thank you. there, Jerry? Great, so good. All right. If I may, I would like to turn over to Councilmember Lane for some parting remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was doing well till y'all stood up. So I had my wife, I wrote a few words down and I had my wife time this for me because of all the accomplishments we've had. And I hope you'll indulge me, but it only came out to 32 minutes. So I'm just kidding. You're not here to see me. So first off, happy Thanksgiving to all of you. We have so much to be thankful for. One of the things that I am thankful for is that I've been lucky enough to have had 3 meaningful careers of my life. At the age of 17, I enlisted in the United States Air Force. I served this country with honor and distinction, making lifelong bonds with my comrades in arms, bonds that are still there today. I had my dream career with the California Highway Patrol. First responders refer to each other as brothers and sisters because of the bonds that we develop as we rely on each other. Being a first responder, it's not a job. It's not even a career. It's a calling and a lifestyle that my family and I still embrace today. When I thought I'd retired, the citizens of Lake Havasu City chose me to represent them in this wonderful place we call home. I'm here today completing 42 years of public service. And once again, I've had a position where I've developed lifelong bonds with people that I will always call family. I am proud of what we've accomplished. Someone asked me what I had done during my time on council. The answer, it was easy. I have done nothing. We have done a lot. Everything that happens in the city is done because a team of people have worked together to make it happen. Our job here on the city council is nothing more than one spoke in the wheel. Yes, we set policy, we approve budgets, but city staff wrote that policy and put together those budgets. Our job is to listen to the residents on what they need. Provide guidance through the only people who actually work for the council, the city manager, the city attorney, and the city magistrate. And then it's our job to provide the tools and the resources necessary to make it happen. It is the outstanding team of city employees that actually do the work day in and day out that deserve all the credit for making Lake Havasu City the best and most patriotic city in the world. I could talk for hours on the great things that this team has accomplished, but as I wrote them down, it sounds like bragging. So I'll just say this. To the citizens of Lake Havasu, thank you. Thank you for putting your trust in me and electing me to be your voice. I am humbled to be your servant. To the city staff, thank you for your hard work, dedication. To the people of Lake Havasu City, being on the front lines every day doing what needs to be done. I'm very proud of you and honored to have worked beside you. To my fellow city council members, thank you for your service. Continue to listen to the quiet majority and don't cave in to the vocal minority. You are here to take the heat when things are bad and to give the glory to those that truly deserve it. Thank you to my support system, my wife, Stephanie, and my family. It was you who put up with the late night calls, the missed family events, the going without a vacation, the derogatory comments and negativity. I love you, and without you, I love me. Lastly, thank God for putting me on this earth and providing me the tools and abilities I needed to do His work. It has truly been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lane. And again, thank you for your 8 years of service to our great community. As you said, none of us can do this without each other, and certainly to the family, thank you for giving us your husband, your brother, and father to allow us to serve together. So thank you. We'll now move on to item 6, which is our administering of the oath of office to our newly elected council members. Judge Kalali, if you'd please make your way to the front, and I'll pass this microphone over to you. And we'll start with Vice Mayor Cameron Moses.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Cameron Moses,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Arizona,
of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear
that I will bear
true faith and allegiance
true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same,
and defend them
and defend them
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will
and that I will
faithfully and impartially
faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
Councilmember Campbell. Yeah. All right, and next we'll have Councilmember Nancy Campbell.
Next mayor right here, guys, right here. I'm working on it.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Nancy Campbell,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution and laws
Constitution and laws
of the state of Arizona,
of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear
that I will bear
true faith and allegiance
true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and defend them
and defend them
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will
and that I will
faithfully and impartially
faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
And then finally, David Diaz.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, David Diaz,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Arizona,
of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear
that I will bear
true faith and allegiance
true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and defend them
and defend them
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will
and that I will
faithfully and impartially
faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, we are going to take a short recess. There is cupcakes and refreshments outside these doors. As soon as we come back, we will have an opportunity for just right outside the doors. Oh, just inside the doors. Sorry. Thank you. Just inside the doors. And when we come back, we'll each of the council members that just were sworn in will have a few minutes to say a few words, and then we'll get on with our regular agenda. So please enjoy some refreshments, take some photos, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
It's on air.
All right, we'll go ahead and resume our council meeting on Tuesday, November 26, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. It is now 6 o'clock, and we'll go to the next item on our agenda, which is number 7, which is the roll call again. So, Ms. Williams, if you please call the roll.
Council members Nancy Campbell. Here. Michelle Lynn.
Here.
Jenny Koch.
Here.
Jim Dolan.
Here.
David Diaz.
Here.
Vice Mayor Cameron Moses.
Here.
Mayor Cal Sheehy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8 is the consent agenda. Would any of the council members like to remove any of the items for separate discussion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Koch,
motion?
please.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Koch, a second from Vice Mayor Moses. We are ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 9 is correspondence communication. Oh, excuse me. I forgot each of our newly sworn in council members will have an opportunity to address the community. So I apologize for that. I'm a creature of habit, and obviously I was going right into my habit. So each council member will have an opportunity just to address the community. We'll start with Vice Mayor Moses, and then Councilmember Campbell, and then Councilmember Diaz. So Vice Mayor Moses?
Yeah, thank you. I just think it's so fitting that this week falls on Thanksgiving week. There's just so much to be grateful for, and there's so many amazing things going on in this community. I'm so thankful to the residents for voting me in for another 4-year term. I am beyond humbled to serve my community that has given so much to me. I'm very, very thankful for my wife and family. They're really the reason I do everything I do. I hope that to teach them many things, but to really to make sure you take care of your community, and that we are nice to people, and that we learn and we grow and we always try and do better. And that's all I have ever wanted to do up here on council. That's all I've ever wanted to do as a council member, as a father, as a business owner. And I'm just so grateful I get to do what I do in my favorite city I've ever been in ever. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for the opportunity to speak, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Moses. Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for being here today. It has truly been an honor to serve you in this capacity, and I look forward to my second term. First and foremost, I must thank my husband, Chip Campbell. You have always got my back, and without you, I wouldn't know what to do. And for my family, of course, and friends that listen to my long rants, my long conversations, the long trip to the grocery store, never making it back because I love to speak to the constituents. I want to thank the ones that bought my shirts. I want to thank the ones that endorsed me. I want to thank the ones that funded me. I want to thank the ones that put up my yard signs. I want to thank the ones that took down the yard signs. And I truly want to thank the ones, the boots on the ground, that truly got Lake Havasu City, Arizona, and the United States, our country, out to vote. We've been heard, and that's part of it. Without you, there's nothing I can do. So now I want to say a few things that I'm proud of. First is the way we've redirected our roads and infrastructure. As you can see, we've changed the way we do early pavement preservation, and we're working on roads and infrastructure. And that was my goal. And with you and this council, we have gotten there. Second, I have the honor of being seated as the chairman of your Rural Transportation Advocacy Council as of yesterday. Along with my position as the MPO secretary, I look forward to working closely with Representative Leo Biasucci as the new state transportation chair, along with Sam Elters, the state transportation board for District 6. I got on the phone with him just yesterday, where we plan to even work harder for the citizens of Lake Havasu City, where I can advocate for each and every one of us and everyone up here to help the staff get the funding they need that the HERF funding does not take care of. HERF funding is our highway user revenue funds. So I'm working hard for you. You getting out and supporting me and my campaign means the world to me. So I want to thank you. And again, I want to thank the staff in this room, and I look forward to working with my colleagues. Do you see where they set me? All of you guys know this is funny, but we're all going to get along just fine. We're going to unite. We're going to become a great team for you and move Lake Havasu City forward in a positive direction. Thank you much.
Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations, Councilman Campbell. But I will just say you're in the same seat you always have been in, and nothing has changed. But congratulations, Vice Mayor Moses. Congratulations, Councilmember Campbell and Councilmember Diaz.
Also want to thank everyone that voted for me, first of all. And, it's not a one-man show. It takes a whole bunch of people. So there was 85 plus businesses that supported my campaign, locally owned Lake Havasu City businesses. We had meet and greets at businesses. We had meet and greets all over town at people's neighborhoods, where they brought their families together and their friends and asked questions and liked what they heard, evidently, because they voted me very, very much so, pretty much a very strong majority to get in this, to win on July 30th. So I really appreciate that. Everyone that knocked on doors, everyone that passed out rack cards, people that got signatures for me. It's really humbling to know that people, wanted me to support them, to be on the council and represent them. And I really appreciate that. It was a long, 2 campaigns. The second campaign was successful, and I want to make sure that I do the work that I said I would do. And we will not always agree up here what we're going to vote on, but we could do it like adults and agree to disagree and do what's best for the citizens of our community. And you have my commitment 100%. And also I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And moving forward, we're going to be a cohesive unit up here and get things done for the citizens of Lake Havasu. That you guys deserve nothing less. And I appreciate Cal for let me say a few words.
Excellent. And congratulations, Councilmember Diaz, and welcome to the team. We're glad to have you on board. All right, we'll move on to item 9, which is our correspondence, communications, petitions, announcements, and the city manager report. Item 9.1 is the investment report as of September 30th, 2024. Ms. Olson has this in our packet for our review, and it is also on file and available on our website. Moving on to item 9.2 is to announce the vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. Ms. Williams?
Mayor and City Council, there are several vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. The following is a listing of those vacancies. For Board of Adjustment, 1 regular member and 1 alternate member. Anyone interested can pick up a packet at City Hall, and they are also available on the city's website at lhcaz.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9.3 is our city manager's report. Good evening, Mr. Knutson.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'd like to start this week's report with thank you to outgoing Councilmember David Lane. On behalf of Lake Havasu City, I'd like to extend our deepest gratitude to David Lane for his outstanding dedication and service to the citizens of Lake Havasu City from 2016 to 2024. Throughout his tenure, David has demonstrated a remarkable commitment to our community, working diligently to improve the lives of our residents and strengthen our city's future. His leadership, his vision, and unwavering passion for public service have left a long-lasting and positive impact for Lake Havasu City. We're truly thankful for all of he's done for the city and for the community. And of course, we wish him a continued success in his future endeavors as he can now finally take a vacation. And I would also like to congratulate Vice Mayor Cameron Moses and Councilmember Nancy Campbell as each of you start your second term on the Lake Havasu City Council. And of course, a warm welcome to Councilmember Diaz as tonight you start your first term on the City Council. And I'm very excited to see what great things are in store for the city. With that, let's get ready to have some festive fun at the Aquatic Center. So tomorrow at November 27th, please join us for the Holiday Bread Cooking Class. It's from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. and it's for ages 7 to 10 at a cost of $15. And you can register now by getting online at the city's website or by calling 453-8686. And also coming up, we have a Surfing Santa pool party. That's going to be on Saturday, November 30th, and that'll start at noon. It's an afternoon filled with crafts, cookies, and festive fun, all for just $4. And of course, we have the annual tree lighting at Wheeler Park will be this Sunday, December 1st. December's already here, and that starts at 6 p.m. The special holiday tradition will feature a festive story reading, greetings from the mayor, and a visit from Santa, who will be escorted by the Lake Havasu City Fire Department. Wheeler Park, of course, is located in the roundabout on McCulloch Boulevard, next to the Lake Havasu City Library. Don't miss out on this joyful celebration as we light up the season together. A reminder that the 21st annual free community dinner is happening on Friday, December 13th. And that'll be at the community center. There'll be 2 serving times. As always, the early bird is at 4 p.m. and the second serving is at 6 p.m. If you'd like to volunteer, please register on the city's website, or for more information, please contact Allie at 453-4152. And of course, in observance of Thanksgiving, Lake Havasu City Administrative Offices and the Aquatic Center pool will be closed on November 28th and November 29th. Of course, police, fire, and all emergency medical services will remain operational. And Lake Havasu City wishes all of our residents and visitors a happy and safe Thanksgiving holiday. And lastly, we have a pool closure with an update from Midge Bridge.
Good morning, beautiful Lake Havasu City. I'm Midge Bridge reporting for Lake Havasu City Parks and Recreation. And we interrupt your regular scheduled program for some urgent news. Beginning December 1st, the Aquatic Center will be temporarily closed. That's right, we're taking a 2-week break for some much needed cleaning and maintenance. I know. What are you gonna do without us? But this is to ensure that your favorite spot stays safe, sparkling, and operating for the next year. From deep cleaning every tile to behind the scenes maintenance to keep the water flowing just right, we're making sure the place is ready for some classes, lap swims, and poolside fun. For those of you who are wondering, what's this place gonna look like when we get back? I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Mark your calendars, everybody. December 16th is when we'll be back and better than ever. Until next time, there's no bad days in Havasu.
As you can see, we're having a little bit of fun with the news to get out there. So thank you to Gabby Vera, our Parks and Rec director, and everybody involved with providing this update. So with that, that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Knudsen. All right, move on to item 10 on our agenda, which is our public hearings. During each of the public hearings, there will be an opportunity where we'll open up the discussion for the public. We encourage you to join the conversation at that time. If you have any comments, thoughts, questions about whatever item that we're on, at that point, we can have a two-way conversation. There will be an opportunity at the end of our meeting with a call to the public where you will be able to address the city council on any items within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu City, but we can't have a two-way conversation at that point. I'll go over those details when we get to that part of the agenda. But we do ask when you speak or address the council, you're engaging in the conversation with the council. So you come to the podium, state your name for the record, and then you'll just address the council, and we'll answer any questions or have a two-way conversation about that topic. We'll start with item 10.1, which is Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Loaded Gun Coffee at 2100 McCulloch Boulevard North. Ms. Williams.
Mayor and City Council, Stephen Thomas has applied for a Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Loaded Gun Coffee located at 2100 McCulloch Boulevard North. All posting requirements have been met, all fees have been paid, and no objections were received. The location is properly zoned for a Series 12 restaurant liquor license. Happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is also in attendance tonight to answer any questions from the City Council.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues in council have any questions for Ms. Williams or the applicant? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the City Council on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for possible motion or discussion.
Mayor, motion?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Moses.
Yeah, I move to recommend that the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control approve a series number 12 restaurant liquor license for Loaded Gun Coffee, 2100 McCulloch Boulevard North.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Moses, and we have a second from Councilmember Diaz. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we are ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 10.2 is ordinance number 24-1347, amending Lake Havasu City Code Section 3.20.040, Schedule of Fees and Service Charges, to add and revise fees and service charges. Ms. Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. We have just a brief presentation that we're going to provide to the council and to the citizens to go over what we have changed from the October 22nd meeting until this meeting. In October, when we brought this to you for the introduction of the ordinance, we discussed the fee changes and council gave what we heard to be consensus on a few items. So we have included and I included the reference numbers, the S350, in case you want to look for those more quickly in the packet. The beverage service, we're charging an extra $1, and we did round that. If it was $5.25 and it went to $6.25, we rounded it to $6. So we kept it at even numbers for ease in making change at events. For the open swim fees, the child, senior, youth, and school groups were reduced from $5 down to $3. Rounded again. And then the punch pass was reduced from $80 to $60, and that's for all ages. The sponsored swim, we put the fees back in place that were in place this year in calendar year 2024. So those fees did remain the same. On the business license fees, there did not appear to be council consensus, at least from our perspective. So we left those for now the same as what you saw on October 22nd. I apologize if I wasn't clear in the staff report. When I said in the staff report we left them the same, I meant the same from the October 22nd meeting, not the same from FY 2024 or calendar year 2024. And I'll go over the comparison information for some comparable cities that you requested at that meeting next. I did want to mention that you requested some water meter and service line fee information, and Public Works will present that information to you once we complete this presentation on the business license comparables and get direction on those, maybe those fees. That'll be up to you, Mayor. If you want to wait until after the water and meter service discussion, we can wait and make the final changes at that time. So it might be a little hard to see depending on where you're sitting. Hopefully you can see it on your screens okay. The business license fee comparisons, not surprisingly, it's been my experience in doing this for over 30 years, there are many fees that are adopted by cities over the years, and it's just the fee's always been that fee. There's really no basis for it. There's no cost nexus. There's no gross receipts nexus if it's a gross receipts based business license fee. So we contacted the cities that you see on this list, and we found that we were the only city on this list who actually had a basis for our fees in calculating the costs. All of the other cities, most of them didn't even know when the last time they updated the fees was. And then there were 2 cities that had updates in 2016 and 2019. I did put a notes column so that you can kind of see that there's probably not an apples and apples comparison totally from city to city. They treat some things differently, but you can see the license fee, the base license fee that's listed in that column right after the city. The first city that's listed, they only require a business license for what they consider regulated businesses. So, the massage establishments have a special business license fee separate from all their business license fees in, is it Marana or Marana? Marana? Okay. I know people are sensitive about Nevada, so I thought I better check. So based on these notes and this information, you can see that Yuma and Buckeye have a range of fees that vary depending upon the business type that they are assessing. So their fees can go up to $120 for Yuma and up to $250 for Buckeye. Buckeye, I did make a footnote that they have a separate liquor license fee, annual liquor license fee that ranges from $100 to $1,000. So that is the information that you requested. Again, our basis, just as a reminder from last meeting, ours is cost-based for the basic business license fee with a 70% cost recovery. So 30% of that we do not cover with fees. We cover that with just general fund revenue, other general fund revenue. And for the renewal, which isn't on this list, but our renewal, we have a 50% cost recovery fee. And that's because the renewal is less staff intensive associated with the renewing the licenses for each of those businesses. And I believe that is it. So for this portion, do you want to hear the water line presentation next before we discuss any of these?
If we could hear let's hear the water line discussion. So we have all of the comments that we gave, and then we'll come back and answer or ask questions about any of them. I do want to just, the meters, but I do want to put that the renewal rate, you had mentioned that a cost recovery is 50% for the business license. That would be $134 versus the $188. So that's the majority of our businesses would be paying that rate. So,
correct.
Then Mr. Kellett, are you going to give the?
Yes, sir, I am.
Excellent. Welcome.
Well, thank you to the new council. I appreciate that. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Happy to be here with a more detailed explanation of the new service installation as was brought up at the last meeting. There's some questions about what we were talking about, and so I'm here to provide this presentation, very brief, about what it actually is, so we're more clear, and show and tell, right? I brought a meter just in case, so we have something we can point to. As we're going through this, happy to answer any questions on it, but the first thing we're going to discuss is the labor rate. The labor rate is $2,878. And this is just some examples of what's going on when we're talking about a new service. We're talking about the excavation of the line, going down to the main, and then actually installing the service itself. This is the saddle. This is the tapping. And you can see this is not a light endeavor. You know, we're shutting down a street. And then at the end of this, we're backfilling all this material as well. And there's an asphalt cost. Along with all that, there's the staff time, the water staff or the wastewater staff, depending. And then you're also going to have the streets crew who's out there and then filling in. So there's actually a lot of work going on with these. It is not just taking one of these meters and dropping it into a box per se. That is actually a completely different fee than what we're talking about right here. The thing that's also different and being captured now, and I'll show it in these next slides, is previously the cost of service was just covering the labor rate and was not covering the materials. And so what this large increase is covering the materials themselves. And so we're taking that installation and breaking it down into the individual pieces so we can be as transparent as we possibly can about where this extra $1,600 is coming from. It is the pieces to make this service happen. We've got things like the line itself, the conduit that it can be inside of, a saddle. All these things are the necessary pieces to make water service go to a home. And then that's just from the main. Then we get to the actual box where the meter itself is being put in. We have a different type of stop to make sure we can do a service stop. There's a check valve to make sure there's no backflow. And of course, you have the meter itself. And these are all these pieces that are going in to make a new service happen. Previously, the water department had been bearing all the costs of the pieces. So the labor was being covered, but the pieces were not. This recommendation that we're asking for is to cover those pieces as well. And with that, I can take any questions on it.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Kellett. So that completes the comments that we had from our introduction of this ordinance from members of the council. At this point, do any members of the council have any questions for Ms. Olson or Mr. Kellett? Yeah, Councilmember Diaz.
If Mrs. Olson, just wanted to get clarification on the business license fee. I think people would be more acceptable of an increase if they knew exactly what entails, like what costs are incurred. If you could break it down for the money that we're going to charge them, what is costing us that amount of money? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, the primary costs are associated with the cost of technology for the whole system. There's an allocation that occurs when we calculate the totals. And the majority of it is labor then associated with that. Because for a business license application, it goes through several review processes. It's reviewed by our accountant for TPT purposes, to making sure there's a TPT license being issued at the same time, or being that this applicant has actually received theirs. All the work by the customer service staff associated with processing each part of that and making sure they're getting out the information out to the other departments. The primary department that has the most labor associated with those businesses is the fire department. They have admin and fire inspection charges. There are many fire inspections that have to occur associated with issuing a business license. So that's where the majority of the costs come in.
And then with that, what we're going to charge them, we're capturing 70% of what it's costing us.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Campbell?
Mayor, I have a question in regards to the water meter, if I can ask some questions. You stated that the water meter said flat fee meter size was 3/4 inch, was 21, and then now we're going up $2,309, correct?
Correct.
Do the work that you're talking about.
Mhm.
And at first it makes a lot of sense to me because we are digging the street up, we're putting the asphalt back, we're putting in all the parts that you're talking about. The part that I have a hard time with, when it goes down, so we got the flat fee meter sizes, 3/4, 1.5 inch, 2 inch. And then it says deposit by meter size applied to the bill. Like it stops in the middle, but I think it's a continuation. Like go to the fee, if Jill can show you what I'm talking about. And then we have a 4-inch water meter. And then we have a 6-inch water meter that jumps an additional almost $5,000 right there. Mm-hmm. And the cost of that, the actual work pretty much stays the same. Can you tell me how much extra work goes in to justify an additional $5,000 on a 6-inch water meter over a 4-inch water meter? And then again, we drop up to $12,000 at the 8-inch water meter. And that's the part that I have a little bit of a problem, because when you're digging up the street, you're going to have to dig it up no matter what. You're going to have to go down a certain area. You're going to have to put the box in. You're going to have to put the meter in. Everything you're talking about, the only change that we have is the actual device size itself. Can you tell me why that price jumps so much? I mean, how many extra parts do we need for an additional $5,000?
That's a great question. And it is a little bit hard to tell on there because the deposits are talking about something other than the flat meter fee. So I definitely get what you're saying on those. One of the things to highlight is we actually did a breakdown for a 3/4, a 1 inch, a 1.5, and a 2. So that's where the breakdown had been for this one, just as an example to give you an idea. And the labor rate on all the ones that we're using for those, the labor is actually the same.
Right.
Because they are the same. But the device cost ends up changing around going from a 1 meter to 1.5 inch meter. The meter itself doubles in price just to start out with. The other thing that happens when we do these larger installs, we install bypasses as well. Because a lot of times when we're doing a 4-inch installation, there's also a bypass built in case we ever have to shut that side down to do any of the meter maintenance. We actually build an additional line for them as a part of this project so that we don't shut down a large business for some reason. There's a bypass built in as well. And those numbers are in here for those installations.
Yeah, and if I may, for my colleagues on the council, this is items S131 on page 5 of 16. Councilmember Campbell, on the deposits, are you talking about the $4,000 4-inch meter deposit?
I don't know if that's
so those are deposits with no cost increases. So there's no proposed increase from this year versus next year on those. Those deposits remain the same as proposed in this agreement.
Flat fee meter fee up here and deposit by meters, and then it said applied to bill actual cost. I mean, it's confusing to me the way it's written. Why do we have a flat fee meter size up here, and then we put this weird verbiage that says deposit by meter size applied to billing actual cost? Kind of confusing. And then we jump to 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch. So I'm not understanding what I'm reading there, and I apologize, but I'm just not what that means.
Yeah, and actually, I digress. I gave you, I misunderstood your question, so now I can answer that a little better this time. The 4-inch, when we're building a 4-inch, we actually do an actual cost at the end of it, so we true it up. So when you come to build a 4-inch, I say you've got to give me $4,000 to start this job, and then we go and we figure out what it actually ends up costing. We go back, oh, it was $3,500. Here's your $500 back. Or we come back to you and we say it was $4,500 and you owe us another $5. That's how that deposit works on those larger ones, because they are so complex at times. You've got to give a customer an idea of what it's going to charge. And these deposits are based on what we've averaged over the years. So
and that is correct, because I did have all my utilities moved on one of my homes from down on Sponson up to Palomino. Had to go all the way around. I did put a deposit down, and then they came and calculated it for me, which I appreciate. So now I understand better what you're trying to say here.
That's the difference
on those bigger builds. My other concern or thought that just an idea. We hire outside contractors all the time that do this nonstop. They don't do it for the city, but have the capability. They have the high piping cost, all the items that they need to do this. We're talking about replacing several more in the future, which is the $3 million we're talking about. I'm curious, have we ever considered going to local contractors and maybe bidding out what the cost would be? Would it be more efficient to have a business that actually does this work on a regular basis? Could we, because these fees are massive. This is the only thing in this fee book that goes from $2,100 to $44. We're going to over 100% increase on the cost of one item for a house. And then we sit back and always complain about why is housing cost so much. I don't expect the other citizens to pay for you to build me a house. I'm not saying that. But if I'm over here saying, and I want to disclose something. Our family does not put in water meters, so I'm not doing a number here, all right, you guys? I just know a lot of plumbers in this town and community that would probably love the opportunity to see if they can do a more efficient, better job, including the asphalt that I have seen. The city has to use cold mix sometimes. Obviously, nobody's going to start a hot plant up for just something like that. But to make them a little more accountable, I think everybody up here and out here have probably seen the sink lines where the pipes are, they've cut through the city, the city street, and then the city should go back and probably shear that up a little bit, I guess is the best way to say it. But they have a lot of other things that they need to be doing. So I'm only bringing this conversation up because I would really like to see what an outside contractor pricing might be on this, because it is such a major hit for a community.
Yeah.
It's 100% fee increase.
And I do not disagree. The only thing I would point out with the meter switch out for the $3 million, the water meter upgrade program,
okay.
that is we're literally going to take these things out of the box and put new ones in. So that is going to be just pulling the lid off for the majority of them and putting the new version in that is now have the connection. Those ones we won't be charging anybody for. Of course, that's part of the grant program. We're just doing it as the meter upgrade program.
Right. And there was a lot of questions on that came back to me too, why the cost was so high for that many. How much does it cost? But that's not my job. It's the staff's job to do this. My question has just been, what if we put this out to bid to local contractors, see if they can do it more efficiently? And as long as they comply with the city, eliminate some work off the public works department's backs, and in return gives community funding and they pay their taxes and gives them employment. And that's what I'm seeing, because this is just such a big hit for me. I wish it wasn't 100% increase. Right? Thank you.
And some of the items that are included on that original spreadsheet that Mr. Keller went over are contracted out. So the way that the cold patch works is that the contractor puts it down, and then we save up for a period of time, 3 or 4 months, and then we bring in a contractor to fix them all. So if you are driving over a part of our roadway that has the crevice or the crack like you'd mentioned, and it's been longer than 4 or 5 months, let us know, and we'll make sure that gets added to the list for sure. But some of that's already contracted out, but I think the team can look at some of those things.
I'm aware of years before they get repaired. So there's something, there's a the misconnect.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's fix that.
Thanks.
That's easy enough. Are there other questions or comments from members of the council on the fees for Ms. Olson or Mr. Kellett? All right. This is a public hearing. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Would anyone like to address the council on this item?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Don Wisdom. That's an expensive item. On a new home, is there going to be a difference what you've been charging for a water meter and this? Or is this going to be mandatory in all new construction?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mr. Wisdom. So what this is the cost to install your water to new construction, or if you were wanting to change out your meter otherwise. as Councilmember Campbell had mentioned, this is the cost to put that in. So either the homeowner that's building the home pays for it, or the rest of us collectively as taxpayers of Lake Havasu City are sharing in the cost to build your home. And so this is a full cost recovery to install water and the meter to your home, including all of the details Mr. Kellett went over in the PowerPoint presentation. Would anyone else like to address the City Council on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council. For any additional discussion, I think we're going to have to go back and put in our passwords. So if you want we had a computer update, and the computer update now is turning our screens off. And so if we are on a presentation for too long, it turns off. So it just takes a second for us to put these passwords back in. Is there any additional discussion from members of council?
Motion?
Yeah, please. Councilmember Dolan?
I move to adopt ordinance number 24-1347, amending Lake Havasu City Code Section 3.20.040.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Dolan. We have a second from Councilmember or Vice Mayor Moses. Great. All of our screens up? All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Dolan, a second from Vice Mayor Moses. We are ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Olsen. Thank you, Mr. Kellett. All right, items 10.3 is ordinance number 24-1349, amending Lake Havasu City Code Chapter 2.44, Police Department, to add sections 2.44.070, and 2.44.080, 2.44.090, and 2.44.100 regarding police service assistants and citizens on patrol members. Captain Cecina.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening regarding the proposed amendment to the city code that was introduced at the previous council meeting. This amendment would allow the police chief to expand the responsibilities of the police service assistants, what we know as the interns, and the citizens on patrol volunteers, enabling them both to address specific city code violations. These include tasks such as handling delayed theft reports and other minor issues that do not require the immediate attention of a sworn police officer. By implementing this change, we aim to increase the efficiency within the patrol division and maximize the use of available resources. Freeing up officers from these minor tasks will allow them to focus on being more proactive in their duties and addressing community needs more efficiently. We ask for your support in approving this amendment to the city code, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Captain Cecina. Are there any questions from members of the council for Captain Cecina? Yes, Vice Mayor Moses.
Yeah, I see.
We do have
Chief Sterling on the line there. Is he present?
Yes, he is joining us remotely this evening.
I was going to ask, how old is that picture? Because he has hair.
I was taken last week.
That's not very fun.
I agree.
You should be here. It's actually hilarious.
That's 1997, probably.
Yeah, Councilmember Diaz has a question.
So, Chief Sterling, and I did ask you the question we had our meeting, but can you just cover with the public the basic type of training these gentlemen will get, and also if they're going to be having access to, if needed, escalation procedures, or how that will look, please?
Absolutely. It's a pretty rigorous training process. And as far as the interns, our COPs went through a 10-week academy. So it's a modified academy that happened at our police department. And it's everything from use of force tactics to, and there's a little field training period as well. We don't just let them, send them out on their own right away. So as interns, Sergeant Jackson has put together a pretty intense training program with them as well. So we're going to aim to about You figure an officer's on field training for about 16 weeks. So we're going to go from about 12 to 16 weeks with that program. If they're not ready, then we'll baby step them. So we will not let them out alone until they are absolutely 100% ready. And yes, they will be going through defensive tactics and stuff like that.
Yeah, as with every ordinance that we have an introduction and an adoption. Today is for adoption. At our last meeting, when this was introduced, just to remind the public, what this is doing is that we have what was the Explorer program for our youth that joined the ranks of our police department, and they do tasks. They age out of that at age 19. AZ Post, which is required certification for police officers. You have to be 21 years old to be a police officer in the state of Arizona. And so we were losing people that had a career pathway into police service because they got distracted when they had a couple of years off that they couldn't participate. So this is the chief and captain's solution to help solve that, and then also solve the ability to address some of the more minor issues that still need to be addressed, but maybe not with a sworn officer. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion. Mayor? Yeah, Vice Mayor Moses?
Yeah, I just want to applaud the whole team for putting this together. I think it's creative. And I think this will help us bolster our ranks within our police department. So with that, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
Yeah, I move to adopt ordinance number 24-1349, amending Lake Havasu City Code Chapter 2.44, Police Department to add sections 2.44070, 2.44080, 2.44090, and 2.44.100 regarding police service assistance and citizens on patrol members.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Moses, a second from Councilmember Koch. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 10.4 is ordinance number 24-1350, amending Lake Havasu City Code Chapter 10.08, Rules of the Road to update or establish regulations regarding bicycles, electric bicycles, human and non-human powered vehicles, personal assistive mobility devices, skateboards, scooters, and skates. Captain Cecina.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item was presented at the last meeting where there was a productive discussion and valuable recommendations received from the council. Based on your feedback, staff has made the recommended changes. The revised version, which has been shared with each of you, is designed to be easier to understand and addresses the concerns raised during the previous discussion. I want to highlight a few of the major revisions to this document. The first thing is we separated the sections involving the rules of the roadway and the rules of the sidewalk and city parks. This is covered under the proposed OPP 10.08.200, subsections B and C. Each area now has its own rules, and it's very easy to follow now that they're separated. The second revision I want to highlight is covered under 10.08.200, and that's subsection D. And that now states that the Public Works Director is authorized to erect or place signs as directed by the City Council on any sidewalk, path, or roadway. And those were the two major changes, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Captain Cecina. Are there any questions, initial questions from members of the council?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Councilmember Lynn.
Can you explain how that works on the Public Works Director is authorized to erect or place signs as directed by the City Council? So every time we want to put a sign somewhere, is that going to have to come back to the council for approval? Like, how is that going to work?
The answer is yes, but Ms. Carey?
Councilmember Lynn, how I envision it, and of course that would be dependent on your direction, would be that if there were certain areas in which you wanted to have additional regulations throughout the city regarding e-bikes or any of these modes of transportation, that we would come to council with some sort of map or some kind of discussion and identify those areas and what regulations you would like. And then we as staff would implement those signs pursuant to your direction. So then if it was something that we were just going to do either temporarily and we can bring it back to later, however you want to direct it, but not necessarily each individual sign, but the areas in which you want further regulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, there was, so in our packet or in our information, there's the proposed changes that Captain Cecina just went over. And then Ms. Gary had sent out additional feedback that we received from members of the council and the community based on the discussion that we had. And so as part of that, one of the suggestions was to change that from the Public Works Director to the city. And then that would give the flexibility. The assurance that we would have as council is that we would say, no, that's not an area that we wanted to address. There was several discussions at our last meeting about what areas, if any, do we want to have any additional restrictions. Those areas that were talked about extensively were from Rotary Park to the London Bridge, that area, as well as the island pedestrian multi-use path. And then there was some discussion about Rotary Park as well. So this evening, we would want to give some consensus of some sort, if that's what we're going to do on that. And then there's some other comments that members of the council and community also brought forward with the changes. One of the changes that came from our discussion last time was we had many citizens mention to us that they use the island multi-use path and that they have access to get over there, but they need assistance. So they can't do it all alone. And so we gave direction to move out the part where it couldn't be under human power. So that is in section B, as the captain mentioned, where it allows human and non-human power devices and electric personal assistive mobility devices may be operated upon the public roadways on the following conditions, and goes through all of those areas. So this would allow for a citizen that is using human power, which pedal assist would be included in that. So you have to be pedaling to get any assist going with you under human power. But it would prohibit, should that be the direction of the council, anyone that's using the throttle. So no pedaling, just throttling going through the area. And now there are lots of technologies of these bikes. Some are throttle, some are under human power, where a pedal assist plus throttle. Some are so physically heavy pieces of equipment that they need to throttle to even get the bicycle or the e-bike to go. But again, what this whole ordinance is it's an amendment to our current code that has been in since 2011. And this is to update the technology of the things that people are using. The last time we addressed this, it was electric skateboards and Segways. But nowadays we have e-bikes and we have one wheels where people straddle a one wheel and go down roads. We have all of these different things that this would take into account. About 85% of the entire ordinance is really rules of the road and how do we use it. Chief Sterling, during our last meeting, talked about how are we going to educate the youth and go through and educate those processes? That'll be a huge component of this. And then at the end of the day, this really is just a tool in the toolboxes of our police officers that encounter people that are going too quickly or in areas that are causing concerns for others. My perspective is we're just looking to balance the multiple users of recreational enthusiasts that are using our pathways. Some are bicyclists, some are runners, some are walkers, some are skateboarders. I mean, there's a variety of different people that are using our recreational paths for different things. And how do we find a way to make sure they all can coexist? So that's kind of where we're at with all of those. Yeah, Councilmember Diaz, did you have a question or comment?
I have a comment, and I just have a little bit of question with the very first wording of this thing, where it says the Public Works Director is authorized. And I kind of rewrote a little bit, not trying to be the city attorney, but I just wanted to see what you guys thought about this. It's just a slight rewording of the way it's written there. And I want to read what I wrote down. It's just basically using a bunch of words here. I just changed it a little bit.
You're on page 4.
I'm on page 4 of
letter D.
Letter D.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
And what I'm suggesting is that it reads this way. The city council is the sole authority as to where signs are to be placed or erected on any sidewalk, path, or roadway, regulating the riding of bicycles, electric bicycles, or other human and non-human devices thereon by any person. And when such signs are in place, no person shall disobey the same. Public Works will facilitate any and all sign placements as deemed necessary by the city council. I think that kind of answers also Michelle's question, Councilmember Michelle's question, and it doesn't say Public Works Director will have the authority. but it still says the same thing as far as the city council is going to be the final say on this stuff. I wanted to see what you guys thought about that.
Thank you for putting that forward. Yeah, so as we learned during our last discussion, is that the language that says the Public Works Director is authorized to place or erect signs. That's throughout our code and different code sections currently. So that's actually where the language started from. Is that's how code works in different code sections. To when you're going to put a stop sign up, or when we changed the traffic control up at Shemawavy in Jamaica, those types of things. It gives the Public Works Director that ability. There was some language that we had that we were talking about that the city would have that ability, and the city obviously is led by the city council, which would solve some of those issues by putting that into the code section. Councilmember Diaz, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I don't know that as a council member that I'm the one that should be telling people where signs should be going. But we've listened to feedback and we have a sign shop that makes signs and they go put signs up. And, so if we have like a special event, for example, are we going to have to authorize the staff to be able to put signs that there's no pedestrian or no bicycles or whatnot during that? I mean, there's just lots of things when you start putting code section. Just my initial thoughts. I mean, obviously, first time I'm hearing it, but thank you for bringing that forward.
It does say as directed by the city council, so I'm confused. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just saying.
Sure. Yeah.
So as directed by the city council. So
yes.
When is he directed by the city council? When he's authorized to do it?
It'd be as directed by the city, and we'd be giving that direction right now. So if there's the only authorization that they would be having would be what we give right now today. And then if we want any additional restrictions or lifting restrictions, they would come back to the city council and we would either lift those restrictions or we would add additional ones. But the only purview that the city would be getting today would be what we give them today. And so by the adoption of this ordinance with the discussion of the areas that, if any, that we want to restrict, that's the entire purview that they have based on this code section that we have in front of us. So now in the other scenario, is if it's the city council and we have a special event, we would have to make sure that it came before us in a time that was meaningful, which would hinder some of our special event planning process, where they might have to put their permit in 3 or 4 months in advance for us to get it on an agenda for us to approve it. You may recall some of my colleagues on council, we used to approve special event liquor licenses, and we would do that for every special event liquor license, and it became very redundant since we're just giving a blessing, I guess, to the state liquor department to do those types of things. So we updated the code. It still's done. It's just not done through city council, and it allows for more expedited process for special events. But again, this is the first I'm hearing it, Councilmember Diaz. So this is just my initial thoughts on it.
And so just as a scenario, so the Public Works Director decides that he thinks there's a need because he's gotten feedback that there needs to be signs down at Rotary Park or on the London Bridge, the Bridgeway area or around the Island Parkway. What's the next step? Is he going to come to us and ask us?
Yeah, so the lead department on this particular ordinance would be the police department. So the police department would come forward and say, it's our recommendation that we add a restriction here, if that's their thought, or one of us on council are getting feedback from citizens that say, hey, this is an emergency waiting to happen. We need to do something. And one of us brings it forward for discussion among the council to make any additional.
So when is the green light that you get the okay, Mr. Public Director, to put the sign up? Who gives them the green light?
Right now, tonight, we're going to give direction on if there's any restrictions as part of this ordinance that we want to restrict. If we don't restrict any, the Public Works Director doesn't have the ability to put any signs up. But based on tonight's discussion, if again, the 3 that I heard last meeting and that we heard from the public was Rotary Park, the channel walking area or channel pedestrian from Rotary to the bridge, and the island pedestrian path are the 3 I heard last time. And so if we want any restrictions there, we want certain ones. I mean, that's the discussion we're going to have here tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, Councilmember Campbell?
A couple questions.
Yes.
The first is, why is the verbiage in the code? The city puts up signs every day and they say very important things, like you said, for events to no parking right now because there's a downtown event or whatever. So I find it interesting that this has to even be in this code because you just said it. This code, if we're going to say that in tonight's code that this is the will of the council to put a sign up on a public path, the island, Rotary Park. We are putting it in this ordinance, and this ordinance all is basically what Councilmember Diaz is saying. This one says public works. I don't even know why it's in there, because if you explain, we all know that the city puts up signs, the state puts up signs, county puts up signs. They never go to a governing board and say, what this code should do is only discuss what we want to do today. It's very informative. It's great. It gives the police amazing direction. I don't understand why we're so hung up on a signage and who puts it up and what does the signage say if the code right now is not even explaining what we want. So I say remove that verbiage altogether. I don't think a code needs to tell the police department that they can put up a sign. You guys can block traffic anytime you want. So if we're kind of hung up on when the city council doesn't e-bikes in the channel, I'm using that as an example, that's the discussion we're having right now that needs to be put into this code so that's just added to the rules of the roads. That's it. And the next question I would have would be, what is class 1 only? Can somebody tell me that? And I know we have people in the audience that can come up and educate us again, because since our first read, they went out and educated themselves. They came up with other communities just like you did. And they're not all sitting here tonight because they spoke to us last time, which they came out in droves. And you saw the importance of these pedal assists and these e-bikes when you live in a city with the terrains that we have. So we really just need to get the proper verbiage in this code of what we want and where we want it and what we're allowing. And we talked about it before and it's not in this code. Did we talk about the speed limit? Or like they said, is it a class 1 only in these locations? I don't know what the answer to that is. I just know what the feedback that I received from people, that why are we getting so hung up on when the staff can put up a sign? It happens every day, all the time. But if the code says you no longer can ride this bike in this area, then they're going to go put that sign up with or without. We're trying to give direction right now. So even if you put in, what I'm trying to say again is, even if you put in here directed by the city council, it's only based on this code anyways.
Ms. Gary, if you want to.
So, Councilmember,
not all the signs of the city.
Where this kind of came from, originated from. So in the previous code of what's been struck through, we went through and detailed certain areas that persons weren't allowed to ride skateboards and that sort of thing. And over time, it became not applicable anymore. And so we don't do that in other codes, just like you're talking about. We don't go into that grade of detail in the codes of exactly the certain areas where signs are going to be or get that detailed. And so that's what we were trying to move away from in what we're suggesting today. We understand that at times there may be areas that additional regulations are necessary for safety or for whatever purpose. And by doing this, that allows some sort of process to put that in place without putting it in the city code where we have to come back to council every time we maybe want to change an area or change a boundary a little bit, or it keeps the code up to date in and of itself. So that's for number 1. However you want to go forward in doing it, we can do that. If you'd rather us put in the code exactly the spaces and the areas that we want to have additional regulations, we can absolutely do that. We're going to accomplish the same goal either way. And it could be that we don't even put further regulations in any of the areas. I don't know that there's any consensus on council in doing that in any of those particular areas. And so we're talking a lot about one little tiny section that I don't think that it's going to be that big of a hurdle. 2, you're going to see that type of provision throughout the code where you're authorizing the public works director to erect signs pursuant to whether it's some additional parking, no parking signs, or additional whatever types of signs. So we're using the same vernacular and process that we use in other areas of the code. It's just become a big deal with this one because everyone's really focused on it right now. Regarding number 2, I think you're asking why we don't define it in the different classes of e-bikes as far as like class 1, or is that what you're asking why we don't? And what we did was we created just one definition because it's really difficult to enforce or look at something and tell, well, is this 1, 2, 3 just by looking at it because of the size of the motor. So when we drafted our definitions, we tried to capture it in just a more simplified definition. And this is what our police force believes that they can actually enforce.
We don't know what the police force right now. We haven't given them direction. And I was watching a city council meeting the other day, and I thought it was quite interesting. I want to hear what my council members want. Do they want e-bikes banned in any of these places? Do they want class ones only? I want to hear from all of you. And if it starts, I don't want to manage the meeting, but I would love to hear going down the line what every council member feels is a good idea for the community. And then we can give direction and then just tighten up this conversation. But before I would do that, I would really love to hear from the public one more time, that we can ask some questions, but I'm not trying to chair the meeting or anything. I would just love to hear.
We're going to do all of those things. Yeah, it's just we need to give everyone an opportunity to have some discussion. Yeah, there was one comment that seemed to spark some folks. So overall, what I'm hearing or seeing so far is we're okay with the general idea of the ordinance. We have a couple of things I think we can work through that we've noticed so far. Do any of the council members have any additional questions before we open the public hearing? And then we can come back through and we can get consensus from the council members. So we'll give you each opportunity to say, hey, where should restrictions be or where they shouldn't be? Councilmember Lynn?
Mr. Mayor, I'm fine with this code. I do have a little bit of concerns with the item we're going to discuss, but I think something I know we can't necessarily address it in the ordinance, but I was speaking to our principal over at HPA this morning, and we were talking about the education and getting this out. We have a lot of students, and reading under the definitions under B, where every person riding the bike has a right. Where is it? Here we go.
And if you could guide us there too. I'm sorry. What page and number?
So if you go on page 3, number 7, it's just discussing how every person has to obey by the rules of the road. So if we have under 16-year-olds that are riding these bikes, how are they going to know what the rules of the road are? Like she was asking, she's got specific kids that are coming to school. We're only through 8th grade. We don't have anybody 16. She can't go and explain to them this is what they're wanting. So if we can get into our schools to at least discuss this, because if you go under the next page on page 4 under violations and penalties, we don't want to be charging kids $300. So I know we can't necessarily put an educational part in this, but as we go into this ordinance and tonight we're going to vote on this, is there a way that we can get into the schools and educate these students?
Yes, Councilmember Lynn. Actually, we've already started doing that on Arizona ARS, and actually Sergeant Burns in the back of the room him and his traffic crew have already started doing that, along with our SROs. They're actually all the e-bikes that are at the schools, so at the high school. I went and visited one day, and they're lined up at the high school. So, Officer Wilson, who works at the high school, he goes and educates. It's daily. He goes out there and talks to every single kid. And if it's a Suron type a motorcycle in a way, he'll talk to them and talk to the parents and give them warnings. And so that's already begun. And yeah, education is going to definitely be the key to this. So, we plan on going into the schools and being heavy on education in the schools and through the bike shops as well, videos, social media, our bike rodeos. So we do plan on hitting education very hard. That's going to be the key to making this work.
Okay. Don't forget our charter schools.
And all the schools.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
She just said 2 years she's been asking because she has one specific student that every day is riding without a helmet. She goes, they're not going to listen to me, the principal, but we have an officer come on and say, hey, there's an ordinance here. This is what could happen.
That was HPA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
He's on it.
That's our SROs are our school resource officers. So they work at these various school sites, but they actually are like Havasu City Police Department or police officers. So, all right. Any other questions before we open the public hearing?
Let's do it.
All right. Please just make your way to the podium. This is a public hearing. If you'd like to address us on this item, please just make your way to the podium. State your name for the record.
So I'm Butch, Harold Meeks. And so you're going to fine a kid $300 the first offense. I think that if we're going to have fines, I think it kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. I was riding a motorcycle 37 miles away from a gas station up in the mountains, and I got a ticket when there was hundreds of people doing the same thing, and I almost didn't get my license because of that. I had to go to a special hearing and do all this stuff. because I was somewhere out in the middle of the boonies. You couldn't get water, you couldn't get anything. And so I think safety is a great thing, but I think that if you're going to start fining kids $300, they're not going to be able to ride a bike. So they have to either walk to school or ride a bike to school or something. And so now they won't be able to ride a bike to school because they were riding in an area they didn't know, and they have this $300 fine. I think that for an adult, a $300 fine. But there again, we have people that are from, out of the area. I think that we got to be careful when we start throwing $300 fines for riding a bicycle. It seems overkill, but that's just me. And I know that as a kid, I was very upset that, number one, I got a ticket. Number two, that, it seems pretty rough. So you're going to give a 10-year-old kid a $300 fine. It's just something to think about.
Mr. Meeks, just so you know, the language in the code that we're considering this evening is punishable by a sanction as fixed by the court, not to exceed $300. So it's not a fixed rate of $300. It could be $25. It could be nothing. The whole intent is to find a peaceful coexistence of our recreational spaces and to use it as an educational tool. And when those things don't work, that the police department has this tool to be able to address the situation. So, but just so you have
when I went to court, I got the maximum fine, just to let you know.
Yeah. Long time ago.
$150.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was in 1972 or 71, but I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is so ridiculous. And so, the judge might have a bad day that day. And he's like, I'm going to give that kid $300.
This is also adults. This is not just for youth. So anyone that violates this code section would be subject to the same thing should this pass this evening.
So it's under 18, they don't get fined.
No, this is for they fine anyone that violates this code section. If you're a youngster or if you're
I think that I think it's ridiculous. You're going to give a $300 fine to a 10-year-old.
It's up to, but point well taken. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Would anyone else like to address the council on this item? Yeah. Yeah, please. Yeah, you just make your way to the podium. State your name for the record.
Pam Swenson. Admittedly, I was not here for the last meeting, so I wasn't involved in the discussions at that point. But I'd like to know how this compares with the traffic laws of the state with regards to motorized vehicles, and where they are restricted and allowed, and also the size of the individual vehicles, because I'm not clear whether the city is taking rules in addition to or beyond what the state laws are. So I'd like some explanation on that.
Sure. Yeah. Great question. We did cover that at our last meeting. So this takes into account class 1 vehicles. Anything else would still be a motor vehicle and under those regulations. So this is just for class 1, which are not classified by state statute as motor vehicles, if you will, where they don't have to get registered insurance, those types of things. But that's what this one addresses, and this does not go any further than state law permits.
But if I understand it, based on what the city attorney said, that this code is not being broken down by size, by whether it's 1 or whatever. So you're saying that that is what applies based on the city, based on the state. But she said that it's not, and that there is no differential within the code that the police are going to be identifying vehicles.
So I misspoke by class, but it's the same thing. But in the code section, it's an electric motor less than 750 watts or 1 horsepower is what this code section would be defining.
Okay.
Which is also a class 1.
Which is a class 1.
On state statute.
Yet she said that it was not going to be.
I'm just saying same things, different words, but the code section that we're talking about is an electric motor less than 750 watts or 1 horsepower.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please just make your way to the podium. State your name for the record.
Kat Crispino, and I wasn't at the last meeting either, but I walk the channel twice a day. And just the other day, there were 2 kids coming up behind us on one side, 2 kids on the other, and some behind us on the sidewalk. There was at least 4 or 5 adults with little kids. They didn't have anywhere to go. Everybody's scrambling. They don't know where to go. And I see them tearing up all the landscaping. I see them riding through the bowls of where the baseball fields are and through the other grassy area. I see them jumping the hills over on at the resort, at the golf course. And I just want to know, how is this going to be regulated? If, from the authorities, how is this going to be taken care of when, just the other day when I was walking, I told these kids, somebody said they're coming. Everybody turned around. Everybody was scrambling. And I go, slow down, please. And they go, shut up, B word. If you don't like it, get off of the sidewalk and walk somewhere else. And I've also had them doing that several times to me. So I just need to know, I feel that somebody is going to get hurt so bad. It's going to be a dog. It's going to be a senior citizen. It's going to be a little kid that's going to have to be yanked from their parent, to get out of the way. But the problem is we can't hear them coming, and they think that they have the right on that sidewalk. And so I just wanted to have a voice for all of us who walk all the time. And, so I don't know how this is going to be solved. But something has to be done before somebody seriously gets hurt or somebody gets killed as fast as they're going. But thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a real small step to help address what your concerns are, Ms. Crispino, as well as the concerns of other people who want to recreationally use our areas. But this is one small step to go there. We've heard from lots of citizens on both sides, and so they were trying to find some happy medium. To help enforcement would be the item that just passed prior to this item with our police interns and our citizen on patrol program to help as well to help do some of these components. But we hear you, and we're trying to find a balance there. So would anyone else like to address the city council on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council. And so there's a few things that we need to address. One, if there's any functional issues that we have with this ordinance, which the first thing, I didn't hear that there seems to be some words on the public works director. I want to refrain from talking about that right now. And because we know that that's a challenge, we'll get through that. But we'll go through and hear from each member of the council on if any, restrictions do you want to place on there? And I'll begin. And then I'll start with my colleague, Michelle, Councilmember Lynn, and then we'll move down the dais. So, again, I'm just looking to find a careful balance of what this is and what the concerns are. This first came to me, actually, Councilmember Koch and I had some initial discussions almost 18 months ago, I would say, from complaints that we've received from citizens. And we're looking at ways to address it because it's very complex and very complicated with the different types of these vehicles, the speeds that they're going, and the popularity. People enjoy them. So how do you balance all of these things? So that's what we talked about. I then had 2 students from Lake Havasu High School come visit me last spring. They actually were featured in our PSA. So if you have seen the PSA on our website or social media, they came to talk to me about concerns that their friends were having because they didn't feel they were very safe operators. They didn't have the tools to do that. So how do we address those areas? And then, of course, all of the pedestrians that are using the island pedestrian path as well as the channel area to walk. We've heard concerns. Through our testimony last week, 2 weeks ago, we heard that, it's not always the bikers. It's also sometimes the pedestrians. They have earphones in or earbuds in. And so they can't hear, even if they were saying, hey, I'm coming up on your left or had a bell or whatever it might be. And so there's, again, just trying to balance that. So the balance I see, is that we would, restrict, use in the channel area. And that would be from Rotary Park into the channel, and in some respect. So we can do it through a variety of different ways. I also think we restrict it over on the island walking path. What I mean by restricting is that you have to be under human power. So you can still ride a bicycle in this area. You just have to be under human power, meaning you're pedaling your bicycle. If you happen to need pedal assist on at the time, that's okay. Because the pedal assist is not working without you under human power using your legs to power this bicycle. If you were to use your throttle, you would be in violation. Like if you're just sitting there on a ride, like taking a moped down the channel or on the island walking path, that would be in violation of this. So if you're under human power, pedal assist does not bother me. It's actually out of the proposed code because we already talked about this last meeting. And so if you're under human power, that's the only restriction I'm looking for. So we would have signs that say you must be under human power or whatever smart signs say to have people do what they're supposed to do, in those two areas. I am a little leery on restricting them in Rotary Park. And the only reason is because we have the skate park there where people are using the skate park for bicycle tricks and things. And so I understand that we could do some things there with some signage like, slow down and those types of things. But I also don't want to restrict. I actually ran into Vice Mayor Moses and his family the summer sometime, and he was teaching his children how to bicycle on a bicycle with training wheels. I thought that was an appropriate use for Rotary Park. I don't know where else you might teach your children how to do that. And I was a pedestrian walking, and he was with his family learning how to bike. Yeah, she was on a mission. She was going to learn. I think she might have got her training wheels off by that afternoon. But so that would be where I would start with. Again, when I say restriction, my definition of that is you're under human power when you're in the channel, and also around the island walking path. Now, I will say that there are some private interests that own property in this area that have the ability to restrict it further, and we'll consider doing so, especially in front of the tight area around the boat docks where it is quite dangerous when folks come around at any speed that they're coming around those corners. So that's what I would offer for where I would stand on that. Again, I know restrictions is a tough word, but please understand what I'm saying is as long as you're under human power, if you're pedaling your bicycle, you are fine to use the island pedestrian path. You're fine to use the channel. It would be you're just not allowed to use that throttle. So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Lynn.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I think that word restricted is it's a challenging word, that if we could find a different word to use. I don't want to restrict it anywhere as in regards to the human powered either. I think you should be able to ride your bike. Even in Rotary, I think you can do it correctly if you just use words like share the walkway, share the pathway. Remember who you're sharing that with. I'm hearing what she's saying out on the walkway out there, and I don't know how you can put that in a sign. I don't know how you can tell people, I don't know how you can tell a 16-year-old to allow the senior person walking, slow down. You can't. A sign's not going to do it. I'm challenged by it, but I think that the best way we can do it is we can start with the signs that say human powered, whatever that looks like. I don't even know if a child's going to know what that means, to be perfectly honest. Maybe just put no throttle in this area. Can we not just put that? No throttle in this area?
I think I don't think we get into words. I think we give global direction and then smart people come up with words of if there's restrictions on that.
Yeah, I don't like the word restricted. If somehow use that.
And the only reason I'm using the word restriction, I want to be really clear what it means. So when we're doing this right now, they currently by code can go and use any of these places doing anything they want. Throttles, bicycle, pedaling, pedal assist, all of the things. So I'm just trying to be clear for the part of the discussion. The words aren't changing at all. The words in the ordinance that are proposed here, unless one of you are saying change words, I just wanted to be very clear what that meant, is that restriction. And also as we go to each council member, if there's other areas, I just summarized what the areas were in our last discussion. You might think that Sarah Park or Dixam Park, or I don't know what else might be a thought, but I was just summarizing what we talked about last week. So sorry to interrupt.
Nope, that's okay. I think that we're on the same page with that, with not taking away bicycle rights, sharing the road with the walkers and the bicyclers. The throttle thing, I don't know the right word to use that either. I mean, we can all discuss what that looks like. And again, I just really, as a violation thing, that we're very clear what that looks like, because our youth don't know these rules. They don't. And I do have one question, and I'm wondering if I could,
Captain Cecilia.
yeah, if I can bring the captain up. Can you, like, for this scenario, I'm curious of what this would look like. So I drive home from work at night and I see these kids riding these motorized bikes. They're wearing all black. They don't have their light. They don't have their helmet on. So if we have an officer, what does that look like? Are they going to pull them over and say, hey, this is what you need to do? Like, what does that scenario look like?
Yeah, it does look like that. So we're actually doing that now. So if there's a kid riding a electric bike down McCulloch and it's dark and there's no lights or anything, we are stopping them. So that starts with education. I mean, we're not immediately citing them right away at all. Usually that's education. We're calling the parents, letting them know. And we're going from there. So on our Sur-on type motorcycles are above 750 watts. When we're seeing them on the roadways, Sergeant Burns and his crew and the patrol officers are stopping them. Usually that starts with a warning. They'll call the parents, they'll document it. And there's times that we're catching them again, 2 and 3 times. So then we'll start citing and then we'll up it.
That's what I wanted to know.
This case is going to be, yes, that's what we start everything with usually is warnings and education. And, that's a case by case basis though, because you could have a pretty bad collision on the sidewalk, let's say, and somebody was not obeying by this. That could be a totally different story.
Okay, thank you. I just want to know if you were citing it, like it was actually not citing, but
Not
it's
automatic.
documented so that the next officer the next night might see the same person that has been documented. You've already been warned, so they know that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Lane. Councilmember Koch?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, staff. It was probably 18 months or so ago, and I appreciate the comments from the avid walker. I'm a runner, which is exactly what prompted my conversation with the mayor. Yes, I wear headphones when I'm running, but again, had multiple incidents in 2 weekends in a row with these very fast motorized bikes, not to mention people who were coming up to me after it happened and said the same thing happened to them. So I went to the mayor and had the conversation. It not only happens when I'm running in Rotary Park and through the channel, but does happen on the island as well. Nothing against the battery powered bikes, and that the intent of the conversation was never a ban. It was, how do we control this and cohabitate in these areas that we all like to enjoy? I mean, we all like to be outside in Lake Havasu 9 months out of the year. We have to coexist. So, I think some of the verbiage being limited to instead of restricting, maybe limited to, and again, I don't want to get into word games. But it is a problem. It is a concern. And again, I don't want to see anyone get hurt. I'm not old, but I'm not young anymore either. And a jump off the side of some of those sidewalks is going to break an ankle. And so we all just have to be respectful and coexist, but we need to have some guidelines, and the police need to have some tools in their toolbox in order to help educate the youth. I remember when we did some of the big restrictions years ago in the channel with mooring overnight, and people were like, oh, they're going to get tickets. We're going to lose tourism. It wasn't about that. It was about giving the police the tools in the toolbox to be able to talk to the visitors and educate them on the rules that we're having and the changes that we're having. And everybody cohabitated well. The visitors learned the rules and everybody got used to what they could and couldn't do. It's going to be the same way with this. As we grow as a city, as we evolve with technology, we're going to have growing pains. And with that, just making sure that we're staying ahead of it. And so I almost think we're a little bit behind because there's so many of these motorized vehicles now. And it's getting to be where they've been able to do what they've been doing for so long. It's going to be hard to retrain them now that there's going to be different things where they can and can't be. So I'm happy to see this here. I apologize I wasn't at the last meeting. I did watch the meeting and there was some good conversation. Unfortunately, I feel like some of the public thought we wanted to ban these bikes. And, I can only scream at the computer when I'm watching it after it's been taped, but it's like, that wasn't the intent. The intent really was just, we need some tools for the police to be able to coexist with these motorized vehicles and also to protect those that aren't on motorized vehicles at the time when they're going through. So I thank you. I agree. I think the island, the channel, and Rotary are our highest pedestrian areas. So I'd like to see us start with those. And again, just make them human operated. And, if they're pedal assist, that's fine because they need to be operated by a human. They're not battery powered. Let's see how it goes. We can always revisit it. This isn't set in stone, permanent, never be able to change, but I think we need something. And I think we're already behind the 8 ball a little bit in it. So, I'm happy to see this come forward. I appreciate all the work that the police have done, for us, with this, and Kelly, Gary, our city attorney, and, excited to see us have some tools that we can help manage the growth.
Thank you, Councilmember Koch. Councilmember Diaz?
Well, I'm going to admit I'm old, like Butch. We used to call them mopeds in the 70s, I think, right? Right. So I agree with Councilmember Koch. It's an educational thing also. I went to some of the bike shops in town after the last meeting, and to a person, most of them said that 70 to 80% of their sales are e-bikes. Now, 70 to 80% are e-bikes. I went in there to fill up the air in my old school, motor, human bike. But, so I think if we could come up with some kind of a flyer with their help and educate at the bike shops, as Councilmember Michelle Lynn said about the schools, and Captain Cecina. Yeah. I think you're on the right track with, doing your stuff at the high school. I've heard at the high school now, the quad is now an e-bike rack, right? So, education, I think as the starting point is on the language, on the signage would be key, that we're not restricting. Maybe we have to come up with some wording that makes sense. But I do see the issue down around the channel, also down in that area. And it's not just youth, it's adults on these bikes also. I'm coming out of some of the restaurants on McCulloch and they're flying down the sidewalk. And it's an accident waiting to happen. The accidents have happened. So, and I've already voiced my concerns on some of the language. So I think we're good there. Thank you.
Councilmember Diaz, so as far as limitations, do you agree with the channel, rotary, and the island under
yes,
human powered?
Yes.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, Vice Mayor Moses.
Yeah, thank you. First, I'd like to thank Captain Cecina. His little explanation of how they might handle pulling over a young person on on an e-bike. That sounds like old school community policing. And I love that we haven't lost that as a community, of calling the parents and just trying to get people to be good people. So I love that. I'll speak to the 3 areas that are the biggest concerns. And I want to thank you for kind of coming around. Well, not coming around, but it seems like you're giving some to the e-bike community. And I really want to thank you for that. I worry that your idea to make it just human power isn't really going to accomplish it. So like I can be on my e-bike human power on level 1 going 5 miles per hour. And then I can be level 2 and I can, with the same motion, same amount of effort, go 10 miles per hour. And then once I get to level 5, same amount of effort and motion going 22 miles per hour. And 22 miles per hour on some of these areas under human power, not coasting at all, is not safe. And so I want to get, I know it'll be harder to enforce, although I think it's hard to enforce whether you're under human power or not too, but I think we need to get to speed limits. And I know it's harder to enforce, but we just people need to be told what common sense is. Down there on the channel, we need to tell them, hey, common sense is you shouldn't be going 20 miles per hour here. Common sense is you need to go 10 miles per hour here or 15. Our speed limits change throughout the city, and they can change throughout the city for our e-bikes as well. Out on the island walking path, I think it could be a little faster. Down in the channel, I think it can be a little slower. And then in front of London Bridge Resort, I agree with you. That little choke point, I think you need to get off your bike and walk, because that is dangerous. I almost fell, and I'm an adult. And so I think we need to get to speed limits. I think we need to get to telling people what common sense is. That way we can really accomplish what we want to accomplish. The human power thing is a good idea, but I don't think we're going to get there with that. And I appreciate you entertaining this.
So Vice Mayor Moses and I have gone round and round and round on this, if you couldn't tell. And we joke, and I tell him when he's going on his e-bike and I'm walking, I'm like, "You're not exercising."
He hates that I pass him.
Yeah, that's not exercise.
You can see the divide of the people who run and the people who like leisure, around our town.
But so the speed limit we had a really robust conversation on speed limits last meeting, and it really was Chief Sterling that there's not a good tool for speed limits yet. And so when that happens, we need to start somewhere, and this is the starting point to give the tool to our officers. I think we just need to stay focused on what it is we're doing. We're not changing the world. We're looking just to bring clarity to this, give tools to the police officers in this situation, and then we'll make adjustments to the code section should they become necessary, or we might solve it with education. I mean, going to the schools and using school resource officers, working with our bike shops and with pamphlets and education, like it might solve a lot of the issues that revolve around that. But I appreciate the comments, Vice Mayor Moses. Councilmember Campbell.
Well, this has been a great.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Moses, you didn't really give me clarity on, are you okay with limitations in Rotary, the Channel, and the Island being under human power, or no?
I think there should be. I think there should be under human power and speed limits in those areas, and I'd like to.
You're like halfway there.
I'm there. So I mean, 100%. I think what you're saying is quote unquote less restrictive. I just don't think we're going to accomplish the safety aspect of it.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure. I'm trying to get consensus.
So I'll go that direction, but I don't think we're going to fix this.
Okay.
Hey, Mayor, I just want to make the comment. Some of us don't have e-bikes, so we didn't know the difference and didn't know that you could go that fast under human power. Because if human power is running, I can't run that.
No, this is why I'm here. I'll let you know what us leisure people like to do around Lake Havasu.
And I agree with Cal that you're not exercising.
Oh, come on now. That's not my time there.
On purpose,
All right. Councilmember Campbell, your thoughts?
I love this robust conversation. I think it's fantastic. But what I would like to do is ask a couple of the stakeholders in here and see what that speed limit you're talking about. I like what they said about getting off at that bottleneck and walking your bike through that. Makes a lot of sense to me. I do like the human assist until you come up with the comment that we can go 22 miles an hour. And yes, my whole family that's here in town, we have like 6 or 7 e-bikes, because you can tell by looking at me. I don't do it for exercise either. So would it be okay to ask one of the stakeholders that actually do this job on a regular basis that I know good and well, takes their kids and families to other tourist communities all the time and under the guidance of the speed limit that they would recommend? I see 2 in the audience. Which one of you want to come up?
We can, yeah.
Can we do that?
If the narrow scope in what your question
that's
is,
the only
just
question.
as we close the public hearing.
Just
So,
the
Mr. Miller, if
question
you'd like to make it
I would like is a recommendation from somebody that is in the industry that sells these bikes on a regular basis and travels the community, other neighboring tourist towns with all of his toys. What do you have to say, Mr. Miller?
The only recommendation I would give is,
I think, is it green? If it's green, we got you. Yeah.
So I would just say that ADA compliant vehicles are 15 mile per hour, and it would be hard to restrict less than that. That's my thought.
And I've gotten a lot of signage, people showing me how that they could do this. How do they do this in other cities? How do they measure this speed limit?
Is there a distinct?
Yeah, Mr. Miller, if you could answer Councilmember Campbell's question, do you have any background on how other communities measure speed limits? Is that the question?
Yeah.
I don't know that you would, but do you have any comments on that?
From the places I've rode, I've seen speed limit signs, like what you would see in school zones or something of that nature. But I've never really actually been somewhere where they're really taking your speed and enforcing that. Most of the time, people are pretty courteous and don't need that.
So your speed limit would be 15 miles an hour in these particular locations that we were talking about, no more than 15 miles an hour to be safe?
And the only reason I would say that is because a mobility device that anyone can ride anywhere follows that law.
And the other concern I had is on the island, there is some dips, and we had the 87-year-old lady that loves her trike. And there is going to be times that she's going to have to use her throttle to, I would believe, and you're the expert. What would you have to say? Do you think that she'll ever have to use her throttle at any particular time to get through some of those dips? We saw so many 80. I was so impressed. They're a lot healthier than some of us on the council here.
Yeah. So in real life, I think that they would use the throttle, not to try to speed or to go fast, but just to help them through areas. So I don't know that anyone would really even notice it, but I do think they would use it no matter what.
So when we're talking about throttle, this pedal assist, is that what you're calling a throttle, or is there an actual throttle like on a motorcycle?
Yeah, there is a throttle as well, because you can be on a pedal assist level like 1 for most of your ride, like Cameron mentioned. Mm-hmm. But if you need more assistance through just a uphill or a small uphill, you can use that for that short time until you get back on a surface where your pedal assist level 1 is helping you appropriately.
That's good.
And again, we never discussed the speed limit of those motorized beer coolers. You know,
it did not address that.
So you need a throttle on that, and I wouldn't recommend going over 15 miles an hour. So I like the conversation we're having here. Thank you, Mr. Miller, for stepping up. And I do think that we need to start really looking into a speed limit, because it addresses what even the lady over here said. It addresses what Councilmember Koch said, that we can do this all day long, but if they can still go 25 miles an hour with their assist, we're defeating the purpose of what we wanted and helping the mobile ADA that he's talking about. The beer coolers are not that important to me, but I'm just saying. There are times I know that you use your throttle on some up and downs, probably not around the Rotary Park in the Channel area. I see it on the island for sure. And it's not for most of us, but the ones that really, truly appreciate that island, they are very careful and they're worried that they might not be able to go down and use those bike paths. And I think I've heard them say over and over, that's the only place in town they feel safe going. And hopefully over the years, we'll improve our infrastructure for some of this, because it is a huge growing industry, including adding like more bike racks. And I'm sure that you will assist us anyway in educating the public to ride safely.
Yeah. Can I add one more thing too?
Yeah, please.
I feel like a lot of people are confused with the motor vehicles, like the Surons and the stuff that you don't pedal. And from my experience down there, that's what's causing the most trouble. And so,
do you sell those?
I do not.
Thank you.
No. And it's causing trouble out in Sarah Park as well, where we're not supposed to have motorcycles and stuff too. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my direction would be to go with a speed limit. Somehow we can just figure out that 15 mile an hour, no faster than that. And there is signage. I've been doing a lot of research on it. Plus a lot of people have sent me research that you can get speed limit signs, just like you see in the school zones, that start blinking if you're going too fast, which will adjust somebody's behavior. And again, a massive educational piece. That's 90% of this, and working with the stakeholders in the community to help enforce good, safe riding rules. And I know that the up and coming school board is also talking about making this a high educational piece in and around the school as well. So I think as all of us together collaborating, communicating, we will come up with something that is in the best interest of the community, no doubt. So that's all I have to say. Speed limits.
So clarification, Councilmember Campbell, Channel, Rotary, and Island, you're okay with some sort of limitations focused on speed limits?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Dolan?
So my wife wants me to exercise more. So Councilmember Moses and Councilmember Campbell and I are going to start a e-bike club, and you're all welcome to join us and get a little exercise. So can't wait. I like the ordinance. I like that we are doing a cleanup on it, making some changes for the future. I do support the restrictions, even though we don't want to use the word restrictions. I am for the human power pedal assist. I do the number 3, as far as the speed limits, I do feel there's no way that I think the reason we're doing this is to give the police some tools to enforce And with those Ciron bikes, I think this does give us that ability. I don't think we're going to be out there with a radar gun hitting people at 10 and 11 or 12. I think when we see one of those bikes coming through and we know it's a problem, they can tell they're going over that speed, or they can hit them with the gun and it'll go off at 20, 25, 30. And then, and it gives us the ability to deal with the bad apples that don't seem to care. But I feel without the speed limits that does regulate some sort of common sense, I feel like we don't have that ability to stop those bikes that are truly giving us the problems. So I would support the speed limit, and maybe we can get one person at that end of the table to support it as well, and then we'd have 4. But I think that gives us the ability to do that. And people do get hurt. I've talked to people in the medical community that people have broken their hips, broken their ankles. I mean, there are accidents that do happen out there all the time. And I think if we're really going to, try to, to clean up in the e-bikes and the rules and education, I think education's a key, but to be able to go after the bikes that are really causing the problems and running people off the road, we have to give the police the ability to, okay, you're done. You're getting a ticket, $300 for those group of 4 kids that are going through and, using vulgarity and running you off the road. That's where the police can be down there and catch those kids. And I don't think it's Cameron down there with his kids on the bikes that are causing the problem. So, I would really like to see if we could somehow incorporate a speed limit into those restrictions, whether it's 10 or 15 miles an hour, just to keep people from that, full throttle. So if we can incorporate the speed limit, then yes, I'm in on those restrictions as presented.
All right, thank you. So we have heard from each other on what it is. When it comes to the speed limits, I think we've all been very clear that if that could be a thing, we would be there. But Chief Sterling was very clear to us that that's not a possibility right now. As the technology changes, I think we can be open to that. So it had to be 10 miles or over or something is what my understanding was from our last meeting. So I think if we start somewhere, this isn't the be and all. We're not changing the world. we're just trying to help get people the ability to do it. So
but can I ask a question? If it's 10 miles or over, then we can hit them with a gun at 15, 20, 30. And if they're over
so 15 miles an hour is what a school zone is. So I drive it every day through the high school. That's very, very fast in the channel. That is so fast in the channel. A vehicle going 15 miles an hour is really, really fast. When you're talking on the island walking path, if you have pedestrians out there, I was out there this weekend and there were bicycle folks on both complete human powered, like old school bicycles that just as a pedal bike. There was e-bike folks and there was us, and you're moving pretty quick. I mean, at 15 miles an hour is very, very fast to share that road. We're trying to give tools to the police department, so they didn't ask for that tool. I don't know why we need to force it on them at this point, but I agree. I think that's where it's going. I think as soon as that technology is there, we'll do that part and we'll fix the ordinance at that time. Mr. Knudsen, did you have something to add to the conversation?
Yeah, if I can maybe offer one or two quick things. I think the lovely resident that came up to the microphone and talked about that incident, that's exactly what the police, when they took on this task, was trying to address, right? It's a high-speed electric bikes that they're not sharing the space, they're not sharing the road, they're going to cause harm to the pedestrians and others that are out there. So if an officer or one of our police assistants or otherwise is in that area and witnesses that from happening, this existing language allows the officer to address it, whether it's education, whether it's a warning, whether it's a citation, again, kind of based on the severity of what's happening. If that officer is not carrying a radar gun or doesn't have the ability to determine what that speed was, then that language, it was in the code, the officer would not have the ability to address that situation without knowing that electric bike's speed. But if I can offer maybe one suggestion, it doesn't have to be a code, but maybe it's something just for information wise. Councilmember Campbell was kind enough to send some information over. There's some technology out there in terms of like speed feedback signs, on pedestrian paths. We could do that from a informational or educational perspective. You're going too fast, and be able to put that up there and indicate that. So. Maybe Councilmember Kolka, she's speeding, running 20 miles an hour, might set it off. But really we're trying to capture obviously the electric, bikes, that are causing conflicts with our pedestrians. And that's really what we're trying to address. And that's what our officers are bringing to the table. But information wise, maybe a speed feedback sign that we see along our roads, placing something like that along our paths might be a solution.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Knudsen. And I think that we heard that from the council, that we're good with those things, unless someone thinks differently. So then I would move to our next item, which is the page 4, letter D, which is the Public Works Director is authorized to place signs. So my suggestion is that letter D, we just change it to the city is authorized, which we just are authorizing them right now. Speed feedback signs as appropriate. And signs in the 3 restricted areas that we talked about this evening and got consensus of council. So that's what that language means. That's all the city would have the authorization to do. If they need additional authorization because the council wants to add a new space that is also included in this, they would have to come back to council for us to give additional direction in this ordinance. So it also then would give us an opportunity to adjust the ordinance should this not be working the way we intended. We're looking for a soft approach that gives the police officers the tool. And I think this incorporates all of those things. So I would suggest that we do a motion as suggested, except changing letter D to the city, which we just gave direction to the city. That's all it authorizes them to do. It includes the speed feedback signs Mr. Knudsen just mentioned, as well as the signs that say words to let people know that you need to be under human power. That's obviously much easier to understand than the words I just used.
Mayor.
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell.
I have been on the bike path with people riding their bikes, human power, no pedal assist, no nothing, have literally went flying past us. Same thing, and we talked about these areas. Even I would love to see the motion go in that the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit at this point, we're doing the code. Why do we need to bring all this up again in the future? It seems like many of us agree that 15 miles an hour is more than fast enough, but only in these areas where we put up the sign, we can get some speed limit so people can keep an idea. Because again, I have been with a pack of bikers that went flying past me and my grandkids when I was on a stroller, and it was quite frightening as well. Mm-hmm. So you can go literally, if you're pedaling, you can go faster than 15 miles an hour and up to where it's to 20. And you see it over at the skate park, how tricky some of these guys can get on bikes. They can be very quick and very aggressive. And so why not add in that area, put the speed limit.
Well, I only thought the police chief told us that that's not the direction that they want to go, and this is a tool for the police department. So I think by putting speed feedback signs that say 15 miles or 10 miles, it might be appropriate for 5 in that small little area in front of the old RC racetrack in Rotary, where it's very tight. It's maybe 3 feet wide of a sidewalk. It might 3 miles an hour might be appropriate there. Who knows? But this authorization, the suggestion I just made, it gives the flexibility to the police department that have asked for this tool. And if we don't feel the tool is being implemented correctly, we can come back and say we want it to be specifically 15 miles an hour. But I'm not comfortable saying that right now. We're giving direction to the council, or excuse me, to the city team and the police department that we want speed feedback signs. We want signs erected in these 3 areas that we discussed this evening. And that small change I suggested on letter D solves that. And so, Councilmember Lynn, did you have some comments?
Mr. Mayor, with leaving that, you're still going to leave the city is authorized to erect or place signs as directed by the city council. You're going to leave that in there. And
just move the public works director and instead replace it with the word city.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, with using that, because I'm understanding both sides of the speed limit. I don't mind the speed limit thing either. I don't mind. I don't know how somebody's going to monitor that. Either you're self-driving it, you don't have a thing on your speedometer thing on your bike. I don't understand that. But if we didn't put it in the ordinance about the mileage, doesn't this statement still allow us to place a sign later on with the mileage?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's why this suggestion solves everything you're all saying and allows real-time change to happen on these paths as we get feedback from the users as it's happening. So everything we talked about.
We don't have to come back and redo this ordinance. No. We can just say, hey, you know what? We decided we're going to put some mileage signs up there. We don't have to redo this. That should solve that.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. The only reason we'd have to come back is if we want to say specifically that I think 15 mile an hour is what it is, or I think that someone was overzealous and they picked 20 miles an hour and that's not appropriate. It needs to be this. We would come back and change it, but we don't have to. We're giving out.
I'm afraid that that 15 miles an hour might be too, I don't want people to look at it and go, oh, I can go 15 miles an hour, so I'm going to. So I understand the mileage thing. I do understand it. But I think having the ability to do it, I don't think it needs to be in the ordinance.
Yeah, the suggestion I offer with letter D taking out the public works director and replace it with city. So the city is authorized to erect signs based on our discussion that we just had tonight that will authorize the city to put speed feedback signs on the 3 areas we talked about: Rotary, the Channel, and the Island Walking Path, in addition to other signs that show the limitations of human power. That's what we talked about tonight. That's with the motion changing letter D to the city. Would do all of those things.
So later, like say we had all these complaints, they're still going 15 miles per hour. The chief comes up and says, hey, we need to put a sign of 15 miles per hour. We can do that.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's done. We're giving them authorization right now.
And also just in what you're reading before you, it says they shall obey the instructions of official traffic control signals, signs, or other traffic directional devices. So whatever we do in the future, like it's covered in the code. Any signs that we put up, they would have to be followed.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Carey. So with that, the suggested motion that is there, the only suggestion I have is to change letter D to replace the public works director with city. If someone wants to attempt a motion, we would, it'd be appropriate to do so now.
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Koch,
Motion?
please.
So we're just changing letter D to, instead of public works director, the city.
Correct.
So I move to adopt ordinance number 24-1350, amending Lake Havasu City Code Chapter 10.08, Rules of the Road, to update or establish regulations regarding bicycles, electric bicycles, human and non-human powered vehicles, personal assistive mobility devices, skateboards, scooters, and skates, with the change of letter D. Instead of the public works director, we authorize this, it would be the city is authorized to erect or place signs as directed by the city council.
Well, we have a motion.
Second.
Mayor, could we please specify the areas? We don't want to be in charge of where the signs go.
Yeah,
Council can tell us in these areas.
With the areas specified at Rotary Park, the Channel area, and the Island Walking Path.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Koch. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Dolan. Is there any additional discussion?
Just a quick comment.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Moses.
I mean, I thought I heard 4 people say that they were okay with mile per hour signs.
And then Mr. Knudsen said that from an educational standpoint, that for the changes that we just made, that we have the motion in the second that would put speed feedback signs in those 3 areas that were authorized. Yeah, and so the police department will determine what those are, and the technology is going to change over the years. I mean, you're going to be able to pick up a walking pace, which you can't right now, in some of those speed feedback signs. So that will allow this to happen. Councilmember Dolan, could you just hit the button? All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Koch, second from Councilmember Dolan. We are ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-1.
Thank you. All right, the next item is item 10.5, Statement of Work, Master Services Agreement, and Addendum with Civic Plus for a comprehensive website design and content managing system. Ms. Bracamani.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Let me go to the next. Thank you for the opportunity to present this item tonight. My name is Jerry Bracamani, and I serve as the Community Engagement Officer for Lake Havasu City. Before you is an item for discussion and action to migrate our city website to a more modern, cloud-based platform to help us better engage our citizens and meet the needs of for accessibility and transparency. Lake Havasu City is winning awards for its innovation and digital transformation efforts, thanks to your continued support in providing staff with necessary digital tools to serve our community efficiently. Currently, the website's hosted and managed internally by city staff through Sitefinity. This service, while functional, is no longer the best tool to serve our growing needs and those of our citizens. Staff identified Civic Plus as a replacement solution that is more modern and provides the functionality we need that benefits us and our citizens. Civic Plus is designed specifically for local governments and is a leading industry provider for web-based website platforms widely used by local government agencies across the U.S. The platform is simple enough for city staff to update and add content and includes more robust features that include self-serve options for our citizens. The total cost of this project is $135,000 and it's spread over 4 years. And this includes building the website, moving existing data to the new website, and updates, including a refresh at the end of the 4 years. So it averages about $34,000 a year over the next 4 years. Okay, so we're listening to our citizens. Their feedback from the 2023 citizen survey indicated a favorable perception of the city's services, with many identifying a need for enhanced community engagement. This is just one of the several ways that we plan to accomplish this goal. Transitioning to a new website provides a more modern and intuitive functionality for our residents and our visitors. Revamping the website allows us to expand our community engagement efforts and offers a functional cloud-based system regardless of any local conditions, and also for employee turnover. Scalability to integrate with other systems is important. It equips us with the tool to comply with upcoming ADA regulations that are coming in 2026. And it also includes a built-in refresh in year 4, or after year 4, I should say. Approving a new website tonight has significant positive impacts on our community. Citizens can easily find information and stay informed. Staff is looking forward to other features that are included in this website, like Civic Send and Civic Optimize. So Civic Send empowers our residents to stay informed about the topics that matter to them most. And whether it's updates on like road closures, council agendas, or community events, they can opt to stay informed on those topics that are important to them. Civic Optimize is important for the city so that we can integrate with existing platforms and applications that we already have and to expand on current needs and also workflows. In conclusion, transitioning to a new website represents a strategic investment in our city's digital future. The platform aligns with the citizen feedback from our 2023 survey. Again, we're listening. Improves internal workflows and ensures compliance with accessibility regulations that are coming in 2026. And most importantly, it fosters a stronger connection between our government and the community we serve. Your approval today will help us continue building a city that residents are proud of. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mrs. Bracamani. Are there any questions from members of the council for Mrs. Bracamani?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Dolan.
I think the community's biggest concern is, will I have to redo my bio, or will that just already be sent over? Because I know it took a while to get up there the first time, so I just want to make sure that'll be transferred and I don't have to do any additional work.
We should be able to transfer that, and I might even add a few things for you.
I'll need to review it before we upload.
Like Wikipedia, where we can all add?
Yeah, ChatGPT.
Yeah. Councilmember Lynn.
Jerry, is there any other city that's using Civic? I just like to see what it looks like from a different state that's using this website company.
Yeah, I have a list of some of the cities and counties in Arizona that are using Civic Plus. Most of the cities are cloud-based anyway, whether or not they're using Civic Plus or somebody else. We're kind of the last ones in Arizona that are doing it ourselves. And so a couple of the cities that come are Flagstaff, Prescott Valley, Fountain Hills, Cottonwood, Maricopa County, Pima County, and there's several other ones if you want me to list them out.
Oh, that's okay. I'm going to take a peek later and just see like what the difference is with what we're doing and what they're doing.
Yeah, the biggest benefit for us, I think, is going to be the future proofing and making sure that whatever happens here in Lake Havasu City and conditions, and like I said, with turnover, if Steve were to walk out and leave tomorrow, he's the one who's managing and putting content on our website right now. With Civic Plus, it will be cloud-based and we won't have to worry about what's happening here in Havasu. The website will still remain intact.
Any additional questions or comments from members of the council?
Where is Steve going?
He's going nowhere.
No, he's not going anywhere.
Don't even put that in the
You better
universe.
stay here, buddy.
Yeah.
I think he's working from Hawaii to the website.
Yeah,
That's
going
what I would
nowhere.
do if I was
That's what I would do.
Yeah. All right. This is a public hearing. Anyone would like to address the city council on this item?
Pam Swenson. I have a question. Why is it going to take 4 years to transfer from one system to another? And during that time period, are the two systems going to be able to interact and share information? And also, are you going to do beta testing and have redundancy during this time so that there are no downtimes or issues? Because I have worked in the backside of websites and I know that there can be problems. So those are my questions at this time.
Okay. So to answer your first question, between years 1 and 2, because we're in December in the first fiscal year, we work through fiscal year. So the first 2 fiscal years will have the implementation and migration. And then the other 2 years are just that annual maintenance fee.
So
it's not over 4 years. It's just over the first, it's this 6 months coming in the fiscal year and then within to the next 6 months into the next fiscal year.
So it's a normal implementation of a website over a 12-month period. It just happens to go over 2 fiscal years for Lake Havasu City. Year 4 is a refresh. And so it just refreshes the content. It's not a 4-year migration process at all. So it's just the normal, 10 to 12-month implementation process of a website.
And then
you also said something about it's going to be cloud-based and that the person who's now entering all the information on the website, if that person goes away, then it's just going to be somebody's
going to put the content in.
Yeah. Yes. So somebody else has to know what to do. So will there be backup training and things like that? Because like I said, I ran into this problem in my previous life. So that was, you said, well, if he goes away, it's still there, but it's not really the case because somebody else does have to know how to work in the backside of the.
Yeah. From what I understand, Civic Plus offers an easy ability it's user friendly for us as staff to be able to go in and make updates. Mm-hmm. It actually allows the departments, directors to be able to go in and make their updates as well so that the statistics and information is up to date. I do have Civic Plus on the line right now for the technical question that you asked, the second part of your question earlier.
Testing.
On the beta
testing. This has a CMS, Pam, to it. So that it allows anyone to log in, go and make the changes that they need for their department specific. Currently, the way we actually have a server here on site that we have to go. So we have all of that hardware maintenance and security we have to deal with from that perspective. But there's also more coding involved than what a department could just go in and say, I need to change these words. I need to add this cooking class at the aquatic center on these dates and hit upload and it just goes. It takes a little bit more programming in our current situation. So the CMS is going to allow for that flexibility and user experience for the team to update it, then for our citizens and residents to be able to access the information.
Okay. That I might make a suggestion though, when you say that department heads and everybody can go in there and change things. I think that you got to be cautious on who does have access because if things are not, if people don't have guidelines and understand what they're doing, they can cause more problems and actually put misinformation in there. So that would be something that I think you should look at. That's out of my experience, that I think it's really important to address.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the feedback. Yeah. And with the CMS, it has built-in security to it. So we know who went in, made the changes, how. So we have some tracking. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this item? See, now we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council. Is there any additional questions or comments from members of the council?
Mayor?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Moses?
Yeah, motion.
Please.
I move to approve the statement of work, master services agreement, and addendum with the Civic Plus for the city's website design and content management system in the amount of $135,000 plus applicable sales tax over 4 years. Authorize city manager to execute the required documents and authorize city staff to exercise the option to renew.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Moses, a second from Councilmember Dolan. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10.6 is cooperative purchase agreements with and purchase of crack sealant products from Maxwell Asphalt Inc. and Superior Supply. Good evening, Mr. Young.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to get some crack fill material. We're looking to do about 160 lane miles this year. We are asking for the cooperative purchases through Superior Supply and from Maxwell Asphalt. In doing this, we keep better control of our purchasing. We don't allow upscale from the contractor as they bring it in, and we keep better track of our inventory with the crack filler and the mastic. So with that, I would like to ask to give the city manager permission to approve the two cooperatives and in the price of $274,442.90.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Are there any questions from members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for any questions or possible motion.
Mayor, motion.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Moses.
Yeah, I move to approve authorize the city manager to execute the cooperative purchasing agreement with Maxwell Asphalt Inc. and Superior Supply. Authorize expenditures in the amount of $274,442.90 plus applicable taxes.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Moses, a second from Councilmember Campbell. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our public hearings. Item 11 is a call to the public. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the city council on items within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu City. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes or less. There will be a light indicator box on the screens throughout the room. If you'd like to address city council at call to the public, feel free to make your way to the podium, state your name for the record. And again, we can't have a two-way conversation, but we can listen intently.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Kelly Lutz. I wanted to congratulate Councilmember Campbell and Councilmember Moses on their re-election, and of course David Diaz on his election. I'm really excited to see the community involvement in the election this last election. The other thing I wanted to say is I'm really looking forward to the weekly e-bike ride with the council members. On a more serious note, one of my concerns that I like to talk about or like you to think about is the situation at the skate park. All I hear is issues going on over there, and I really don't know how much policing there is. It seems that there should be a lot more over there. So I hope that we get to the root of that problem and make the city appear a lot safer than it appears. Thank you again.
Mr. Lutz. Would anyone else like to address the city council during call to the public? All right, seeing none, we'll close the call to the public. Item 12 are current events. Are there any council committee reports?
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell.
I'm excited that, and I already mentioned it earlier, that I was awarded the chairman position for the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council. Again, for most of you that don't know, this is a lobby enforced to lobby funding back to Lake Havasu City. And it was truly an honor to be picked in this position. And we already have boots on the ground to start moving great legislative sessions together, again with Mr. Elders and Representative Biasucci. It's quite an honor to be with a team like that is the state transportation chair now, the RTAC chair, and again, our Mojave County manager, which is Mr. Elters, to be able to be quite a force over the next few years. So again, that was quite an honor, and I'm very thankful for the nomination and the new direction. Hopefully we can do some great things for the city.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Campbell, and congratulations on that election. Yeah, fantastic. All right. I'm sorry, Councilmember Dolan.
I just want to give an update. We did have, with the airport advisory, changes, we did have a coffee talk or whatever we call it, airport talk with the airport manager. We did that last week. We had a pretty good turnout, had some good discussions, some updates on what's going on. We are still working on the RFP out there for some hangar development and such, working in that direction. We also just got some general updates on the airport. So in the future, those are also open to anybody in the public. So if you're curious how the airport works and you want to come, I think we're going to do them quarterly. So just want to let everyone know that we did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dolan. Are there any other council committee reports? All right, item 13, our future meetings. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. It'll be a regular meeting, and that will be our last regular meeting of 2024, and then we'll resume in January. Item 14, are there any future discussion items? Councilmember Diaz?
Thank you. Thank you for this first meeting. It was very enlightening. Computer died a few times, but we figured it out. Would like to add up for a future item for discussion. I don't know the procedure, but I'd like to bring back up the Robert's Rules of Order, where it just takes a first and a second to get things on the agenda, and not a first, second, and a third. I'd like to bring that up for future discussion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I'll third.
All right. Ms. Gary and Mr. Knudsen, do you have clarity on what we're asking for a future item? All right. Perfect. Excellent. Are there any additional future discussion items? All right. Item 15, we are adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving. Be kind. We'll see you next time.